Hi there, this is Bex Burton with the Attract the One You Want video summit, How to Be Confident, Irresistible, and Attract Your Extraordinary Man. It is with great pleasure that I welcome to the interview room Leslie Ziemba. Leslie is an empowerment strategist and coach. She is the author of Fearless Love, Growing Through Divorce, Dating, and Divine Purpose to Heal, Thrive, and Attract the Love You Desire. Oh my God, do we all want that? She writes and teaches on the topics of love, relationships, divorce, personal growth, healing, and divine purpose, because really they are all interconnected. I'm so excited about this conversation. Leslie's passion is helping men and women get from where they are to where they want to be in any area of their life, rapidly and effectively. Yes, bring it on. Her personal story, work, and book reflect pure vulnerability, authenticity, and the big sister real talk we often need to help us get out of our own way. Leslie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Bex. I'm excited about it. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I love this. I'm so ready, and I know our audience is. Bring on the big sister real talk. Let's start with your book, because I love this idea of fearless love. You know, I know a lot of people in the audience are like, really? Is that possible? So would you start with what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I was married very young, and I had children very young. I've got a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old at the time, at this time. And I was married for 13 years, went through a divorce. And from being married at 19, I kind of jumped out of that marriage, out of that relationship, and started dating everybody. I mean, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I was really searching for myself. I didn't know it at the time, but I just was really searching for somebody to love me. And I was dating like crazy, had a few really bad breakups, a couple of bad relationships. And I went through this one breakup where I was dating a man for about 9 months when he broke the news to me that he had been lying to me that entire time, and that he had a wife and 3 children in a town 2 hours away.
Oh.
And it broke my heart. I was so in love with this man. Everything was going perfect. And I literally was like on my knees begging God, like, please tell me, what the hell am I doing wrong? Like, I'm a train wreck, and I kept on thinking, up until that point, I kept thinking, why does this keep happening to me? Why do I keep meeting these types of men? What is wrong with me? And it was really when I realized that there was something inside of me. It's like they say, if everybody around you is an asshole, you might be the asshole. So I kind of just, realized that maybe I'm the common denominator here. Maybe it's me. And I was doing counseling at the time. And, I moved like that much in counseling over a period of about 3 years through my divorce and then dating and all that stuff. And someone had told me about a life coach. And I was like, ooh, what's that? Never heard of a life coach before. And I spoke to this woman, and I started working with her for a few months. And I got more out of 3 months of life coaching than I did out of 3 years of counseling. And I really saw such a huge progression from where I was at that time to where I really wanted to be. And in my book, I use the analogy of a house, of the house being like most houses. I grew up in the North, and we had a basement. So we have, the basement of our house is usually full of junk. It's usually dark and damp, and there's little tiny windows that there's not much light getting in there. And this is where all the crap goes. It's dirty. And so I use that analogy of kind of like that victim mentality of being in the basement. So my whole goal was to get out of the basement and at least get up to the first floor. So, and as I progressed up to the first floor and then the second floor, and then this beautiful attic with this big walkout, widow's walk out on, like the big, we had this big 4-story house. So the top floor had this big area that you could go out. It was like a big balcony. You could watch the sunset. It was beautiful. So I use that analogy of the house and just trying to, get up to that higher place, that higher vibration. And after going through so many crazy relationships, learning to find my own source within me, to find God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, to really have that divine spiritual connection, and to really love myself, because that's what it's really all about. It's the way that we feel on the inside. And if we don't like ourselves, we end up attracting people that don't like us either. So it was going through that and going through a couple of, crazy relationships and really learning to have that peace inside of myself that really led me to wanting to write this book. Figuring that other people had to be going through that same crazy roller coaster of life with relationships and love and loving yourself. So that was my goal in writing it.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey. I know a lot of the women in our audience can really resonate with that path. And I just love the house analogy. I think that's so great. And and a lot of us who, are tuning in, might recognize that they're living on that basement level in sort of that dark, damp kind of icky feeling. Now, and that's something that's really occurring to me is, on my own path, and then also for some of the women that I work with, they are attracting less than extraordinary. They're, and we both know that that's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves and how we show up. But if somebody's not really aware of it, if somebody is out there saying like, well, I love myself, what are some of the, what are some of the access points or the entry points, the lines of questioning maybe that you begin with clients to help them reveal like where they truly are? Or do you find that they're very aware of their longing and discontent?
By the time I'm usually working with somebody, they're pretty much aware. They're aware that they're the common denominator, because if they're still stuck in that victim mentality that everything is happening to me, that not through me, but everything's happening to me. Why is all this stuff happening to me? I can't reach those people. I can, try to talk to them and try to help them to understand. But I think one of the ways that somebody, if they're questioning, am I really the problem? Ask yourself, what are some of the things that you say to yourself? Like I hear a lot of both men and women. I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's very much a melting pot here. But I constantly hear people always saying, there's no good men in this town. There's no good women in this town. I'm going to have to move somewhere else if I want to meet the love of my life. So it's kind of, I think, really listening to your language, the way that you're saying things. So I had a woman, I was sitting at it was a singles mixer, and I was in a group of people, and they were asking me what I did. And as soon as they heard what I did, I had like a group of people around me asking questions. So I had this gentleman, he was about 42 years old, decent looking man, does very well for himself financially, has a beautiful house. He's single, no children, wants to settle down. There's this other woman, she's standing there and she's talking about how there's no good men in Charleston. All they want to do is drink and party. Okay. So this guy is talking to this girl and he wants her to come to dinner with all of us. There's a bunch of us that are going to go grab something to eat after this mixer. She ends up not coming. But while we're sitting there at dinner, he's saying, he's really disappointed that she didn't come. And I said, did you notice one of the things that she was saying when we were talking, when she said to me, there's no good men in this town? He asked her a few minutes later if she wanted to go out Saturday evening or Saturday. Something was going on Saturday, and he asked her to go out on Saturday. And she says, oh no, Saturday's boat day. My friend Bobby has a boat and we all go out on his boat on Saturday. I bring the beer, and Michelle usually pitches in $50 for gas, and we all go out on the boat on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And listen to her language, her neurology. She doesn't want to go out with this decent looking man who has a good job and who would probably adore her because Saturday is boat day and she's going to go out partying on her friend's boat.
And she's the one saying that all the men in Charleston just want to drink and party.
Exactly. So, ask yourself, what are some of the things that you're saying to yourself? Watch your language. And I think, when people start realizing, wow, like I can be really negative. I tell people to keep a little notebook of, everything that you've said negative today. If you've thought, if you've had a negative thought, if you have said something negative, especially when we're talking about relationships. One time I had two girlfriends, and I say the term girlfriend, but they're acquaintances. They both need coaching, and I've kind of, stayed close around them sometimes, to help encourage them. Maybe they'll open up to coaching. One of these women, one particular time, she couldn't afford coaching, but she ended up getting a tummy tuck. And the tummy tuck was, the doctor messed up.
Oh no.
He missed almost 2 months of work. Not to judge her or anything, that was her priority at that time. But a couple months later, we are out somewhere. And so there was a group message going between the three of us. The next day, one of them sends a message saying, "You're not going to believe this. So-and-so, the ex-boyfriend, was at the place that we were at last night, and he saw us, and he didn't even come over and say hi." Then the other one jumps in and says, "I can't believe him. What a jerk, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, I'm not.
Nope, I'm out.
I'm not. I'm going to delete this. Please remove me from your group text message. I'm not even going to partake in this. So if you're the kind of person that jumps right in, "I can't believe, he would say that to you," or, those people that are always ready to stand up for you when there's something going wrong in your world, sometimes taking a look at the people that we're hanging around with, or the way that we do jump into these conversations that are only causing more drama and more distance from what we truly want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so much about what you're saying that I absolutely love, that I want to kind of pick apart. And overall, what I'm hearing is that, well, first and foremost, kind of coming back to, recognizing, are we in a state of victimhood? And, really heightening our self-awareness and really paying attention to what we're saying, to recognize and I love how you said, and I've heard this before, but life is not happening to you, it's happening through you. And so if we can examine our language and hear, how we are saying that this happened to me, he did this to me, and those kinds of phrases, then we're in that place of victimhood that, in your opinion, you can't reach this. And I really, that really lands for me, because I know that I've had conversations with women in my community who are so fiercely committed to living in that state that they can't hear anything outside of that. Yeah. So I thank you for bringing that up and phrasing it in that way, because I think our listening audience can really turn the mirror towards themselves and examine how they're talking about their experience. And then on the broader scale, not just about from that victim place, but also the distancing language that you were talking about. Does this, is the person that I'm relating with, the girlfriend that I'm talking to, is she commiserating with me? Is she supporting my theory with more evidence of why men are jerks? Or is she, or is she lifting me up and saying, no, actually, there's a lot of great men out there. God, there was one more piece that I thought was so great. It's just so dense. It's so good. Yeah, it's slipping my mind at the moment, but I really love everything that you're talking about. And just letting it land for a second. But kind of moving forward, so we can look at our languaging, not only about ourselves. I remember what it was, boat day. That was something that I had going on in my life before I met Nick. That was this fierce commitment to my schedule and my life. Because, at some point we do want to be participating in things that bring us life and help us, shine our inner light, at the same time. boat day happens every Saturday, right? And how many times do we repeat the same experiences over and over again? Like, what new are we getting out of that, or are we so fiercely committed to that life that we're not seeing the opportunities in something new?
I think a lot of women, especially a lot of kick-ass women, I mean, there's a lot of us, everybody's trying, we're all doing the best that we can. We're CEOs of companies, we're executives in companies, we're independent, we're living in a time where I think oftentimes what ends up happening is, there's a really hard, I think it's really hard for a lot of women to balance the masculine and feminine energy also. We are very masculine when we go to work because we're kicking ass, we're doing it all. And, you're a single mom, you've got children, you're making things happen. And then we get stuck on this independence and wanting to own our life. I don't need a man. So many people have said, you really have to love yourself before you can expect anybody else to love you. And yes, I will agree with that. But I think in our generation now, I think in this time and age that we've gotten so set on that and about not needing somebody else. So this person says, I'm not going to give up my boat day for this man. He's going to have to pick Monday night or something. And I think that does, cause a big separation with us, and that women aren't being so much in their feminine. And I think, we just get so hung up on this being this independent woman that we can control our lives and we're, making things happen. And I think it really does tend to take away.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love and what's coming to me right now is this, again, coming back to how to be confident, right? How do we maintain confidence? How do we, without being so in our masculine and so like, I'm not giving up boat day. I mean, because that to some women might be like, well, that's me expressing confidence and owning my life. But at the same time, well, that's really repelling too. So
Exactly.
Talk about the balance that you see there.
Well, I think women, especially when you're in the workforce, I think really allowing yourself, if you're going to go out on a date, to allow yourself at least the time to come home, shower, put on some sexy panties and bra, make sure, even though he's not going to see them, it's a first date, second date, whatever, still make sure that you're feeling fresh. You've kind of like washed off the work for the day. You're getting into your feminine. Put on some, smell good stuff, lotions or perfume or essential oils or something. Put on some makeup, whatever makes you feel good. Make sure your hair's done. Just make sure that you're not going from work to a date or, having that time to decompress and get into your feminine energy, leaving that work and everything behind and just kind of, there's so many different things that you can do to be more in your feminine, but I think really having that break between work stuff and being in your feminine is so important, especially in dating and in relationships. I know that when I come home, I need like 30 minutes where I need to switch off. And my boyfriend's the same way. We just talked about this a couple days ago about being able to switch off in that 30 minutes from work to us time. I think that's so crucial for anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that's actually something that I personally have been working on in the last year. A little on and off, I can recommit to making it more of a priority, but this idea of transitions, transitioning, just as you're saying, from our work day to our evening time, to our coupled time, to date time. And in my experience, my husband and I both work from home quite often. And so it's like, that it becomes even more important, I think, when, our together time is just down the hallway. Yeah. And, at the same time, like I want to, for me to transition, I need to leave the office, and maybe go take a walk around my block, or, get 20 minutes of exercise in, or take a shower.
Right.
But it's so crucial. It really is, because just as you were mentioning, in our professional life, we are in positions of making decisions and making shit happen and like, go, go, go. And when we enter that dating realm, we want to have that softness and that openness, and give him space. And this is coming kind of back around to boat day, where it's like, if you have this fierce commitment to, well, Saturday's boat day, there's no space for an extraordinary man to place himself in your life.
That you just made me think of something else. I was working with a client a couple of years ago, and she's in her mid to late, I think she's about 38, 39, and she's very successful, has a beautiful house, and her house has 2 closets. It has like, a his and her closet. So she's got the one walk-in closet that's hers, and then another smaller closet that's meant for him. And she posted a picture on Facebook the one day of her closet, that she decided to turn that smaller closet into an accessories closet. And I'm like, no. No.
No, girl.
No. You just pushed him out. If you were going to be able to call him in and welcome him, you just pushed him out. You don't have any space for a man in your life. What is in the other nightstand drawer? And I asked her, and she's like, I don't remember what was in it, but it was full of stuff. So no, clear out the nightstand drawer. Clear out that closet. You did a great job on the closet. Condense some of your other stuff in your main closet. Donate some stuff and make some room in there for your accessories. But making space, like you just said, so often we're not making space in our lives for somebody else. Why? Because women and men, it's not just gender, but we're so afraid of being vulnerable.
Yeah.
And being open. Mm-hmm. We could probably talk for an hour just on vulnerability alone.
Right.
But I think that's, everybody's so afraid to be vulnerable. So.
It's so true. And I think that, well, first of all, I absolutely adore not just making space in your calendar, but making space in your physical home. Cleaning out the closet, cleaning out the nightstand drawer, even like a drawer in your bathroom, or there's so many different ways that we can carve out a little bit of space to welcome him in. At the same time, doing that, like you're talking about, is kind of a vulnerable step, because it's putting your heart out there, saying, I'm doing this in service of him coming. Like it's making yourself vulnerable because you believe, you have the audacity to believe that this big love is on its way to you. And I think that, love attraction, especially this deep soulful love that we're talking about on this summit, really takes those kinds of vulnerable and audacious moves.
Mm-hmm.
What, all right, we could go on for a long time, but I do want to be good to our time and the time of our audience. But what would be one thing that you would love to leave the audience with today, speaking about either vulnerability or making space or any of the things that we've kind of touched on today, that if they could take away one thing, what would that be?
Oh boy.
I know, or one or two. It's okay if it's one.
I would say taking a look at yourself on the inside, really getting back to that of, if you do have a lot of people in the audience that might be still in that idea of this is happening to me. And really, I think, taking some ownership and maybe getting a little notebook that you can carry around with you and writing down every day, where am I feeling like I'm not being vulnerable enough, or where am I feeling like I'm self-sabotaging with my language or with my behaviors. I think somebody, really, anytime I decide to take on a new client, I give them homework before we even talk about coaching, about programs, about pricing. I give them homework. And a lot of the times the homework is for the next 4 days, 7 days, whatever it is, I want you to write down and keep track of something like this. And to see, where are you falling short? Where might you need some added help? So I think awareness is such a huge thing. And I know one of the things that we wanted to touch on was the timeline therapy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. About that. One of the things that I'm certified in is timeline therapy, which, as I was saying in the beginning, I got more out of 3 months of coaching than I did out of 3 years of counseling, based on something using timeline therapy, which is, it's like part of hypnosis and part of neuro-linguistic programming. And it's different from talk therapy because it's not your traditional talk therapy where you would, talk at things on a conscious level, but it more so goes at the unconscious mind, your subconscious mind, to eliminate like negative emotions or limiting decisions, limiting beliefs like I'm not worthy, or fear of being cheated on again, or, anger from
not good enough. Yeah.
Not good enough, anger from the person that lied to you and cheated on you. So I love it. And I know we don't have a whole lot of time to really talk about it today, but that is something that has been so crucial for my own healing, for my clients' healing, is really seeking things that can heal those negative emotions, limiting decisions, limiting beliefs. Because when we do, if you work with somebody, you work with a coach or a mentor, somebody that can call you out on your crap and can see, where you're falling short. I think that is so, so crucial, is, hiring somebody to help you, somebody that's not your best friend, who's going to, like you said, stand up for you and, fight for where you are in your mentality right now.
Right.
And, I think if I could say any two things, that would be the other thing, is to definitely hire somebody that can guide you and be a cheerleader and to be in your corner and that will believe in you.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And thank you so much for bringing back up the timeline therapy. I know timeline therapy, that you and I have had conversations beyond this interview about that. And before we go, I do just want to touch base on that, because what I love about what you've shared with me about it is that it really gets to those limiting beliefs and those limiting conversations on the subconscious level.
Right.
Whereas, when we create affirmations, which, affirmations are beneficial to a degree, to some level.
Right.
At the same time, we have that deeper conversation, that running tape that doesn't always get addressed by that logical, I am powerful, I'm connected, I'm sexy, I'm passionate, which is all great. At the same time, we have that inner wound that gets triggered, that comes up. And timeline therapy, tell us just a little bit more. You mentioned it was a combination of hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. What would somebody experience if they were to undergo a session of timeline therapy?
So what it looks like, the beauty of it too, is that, like, I've worked with people that have PTSD. So they might have, let's say they were in Iraq and something was going on. They were in the military and they can't discuss what happened, but they're still feeling all the negative emotions from it. So we're basically helping them get, it's like a light hypnosis. You're awake, but it's helping you get relaxed, like with meditation. So they're in a relaxed state. And the way that I'm talking, using neuro-linguistic programming, because neuro is brain, linguistic, language. So the way that I'm saying things is helping them to get into a place where they are kind of putting their conscious mind to the side, and they're allowing their unconscious mind to kind of take over. So when we're doing a session like that, it's basically taking them with the language to a place where they might not remember an event. Like, there's a lot of things when we talk about negative emotions, a lot of them are usually between birth and 7, the imprint years. And a lot of times people don't remember stuff from when they were 3. I know the first time that I was in that I was having timeline therapy done to me, one of the first times that I had it done, when I was asked by my mentors, my teachers, you know, if you were to remember the date of when you first felt fear, how old were you? And the word 6 came to mind.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, 6. And I couldn't, like, nothing was coming to me of an event or anything that happened at 6. And then I just couldn't get anything. I wasn't feeling anything. I wasn't thinking anything. I was like trying to make it up in my mind, but it wasn't working. So we stopped for a second and we went back and did it again. And it was like, okay, what is coming up? What age? And it was 6 months, but it was when my mom was 6 months pregnant with me.
Whoa. Wow.
So what I realized, and it was only because I went back afterwards and confirmed things with my mother, that when she was about 6 months pregnant with me, her and my father split up and she moved in with my aunt, her sister. And through that time period, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anger. Anger was the big one. So I was feeling fear. And that was the first thing that, you know, that was what it went back to, was when she was 6 months pregnant.
Before you were even born. That is fascinating. Wow.
Yeah. So, and some people might not believe that, you know, we can remember that, but you have a soul, you know, your soul knows. Cognitively, we block out a lot of things, you know, before the age of 5 usually, but our soul knows, our unconscious mind, you know, our conscious mind, our left brain, our logical brain can only hold about 5 to 9 bits of information at any time. But our unconscious mind, the right brain, can hold about 2.3 million bits of information.
Wow.
So, you know, I went in and we cleared up the fear and anger that were associated with that time. And all I kept thinking of was, when I was experiencing this, I kept getting what we call learnings. What are the learnings? And the learnings were, what did I learn from that event? So I can take the learnings and take them into the future, into now, and not have the negative emotions that were associated with that first time that I felt fear and anger.
Mm-hmm. And so what were your learnings? So the learnings are pertaining to the event. What were the learnings that you gleaned through this process from being 6 months in utero? I mean,
So I think, and this was a while ago that we did this, but I know, like, some of the learnings that came up in that time were that I can take care of myself. And that might've been my mom's learning at that time, that, you know, she didn't need my father, but she was, you know, whole within herself. Another one was to not put up with someone else's shit. My dad wasn't a great man, you know? So my mom, you know, didn't want to put up with his crap. And so it's stuff like that can come up of, you know, the positive learnings. Because immediately when we say, what did you learn? Well, I learned not to deal with, you know, I learned, you know, that people are blah, 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 or that people are mean. But it's taking the positive learnings and moving, you know, taking them into the future. Everything that happens to us, as you know, as I'm sure most of the people on this summit know, things happen to us for a reason. We learn from everything. If you can't learn from it, then guess what? You're going to repeat the same lesson.
Wow, it's so true. Life is happening for us, ladies.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Leslie, this is just such a fascinating process. I know that, I mean, I certainly want to learn more. I know our audience is going to want to learn more and get more knowledge and brilliance from you, especially around this, you know, healing the subconscious piece. So would you tell us, I know that you've got a free gift that you have for our listeners that is just one way of getting more from you. Could you tell us what that is?
Sure. They can, you have the link that they can go to my website, and there is a video series, both for men and for women. There's 2 different ones, but they are mastering the 5 powerful steps of mastering love.
Excellent.
So one is geared a little bit more towards women. Another one is a little bit more towards men. So that is a free gift. They can go online, or they can also go to my website, and they can also apply for a conversation to talk about timeline therapy or about coaching in general.
Perfect. And that conversation is complimentary as well, correct? Yeah. It's just an introductory conversation where you get to talk about what's going on and get some expert feedback from Leslie. And so definitely be sure to take her up on that. Leslie, thank you so much for sharing everything that you have today. I feel more knowledgeable and richer, and I know that our audience does too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bex. It was a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy that I could be here and join you today, and all the women that are on this summit. I'm excited for them.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.